The vacuum tube makes it possible to transmit sound, whether by radio, a loudspeaker system, or a motion picture projector.
After 10 years of experiment, television, first shown to the public at the World's Fair, now takes its place as a new American art and industry.
It leaves the antenna as vibrations and travels in all directions with the speed of light.
Science has made a reality of the age-old dream of pictures from the sky.
What hath God wrought? For today, miracles in communication are daily routine. And today our problem is not making miracles, but managing miracles. I believe the time has come to stake another claim in the name of all the people. Stake a claim based upon the combined resources of communication. The law that I will sign shortly offers one answer to that question. It builds a new institution, the Corporation of Public Broadcasting. Our nation wants more than a chicken in every pot. We in America have an appetite for excellence too. What hath man wrought, and how will man use his miracles?
Everybody was interested in the 50s in children and in education and in the future of those children. And so for that reason, whole pieces of the spectrum in the 50s were allocated to educational television. The Great Society came forward based in liberalism, a top-down approach by government to improve the lives of everybody. Public broadcasting begins because it offers quality educational opportunities to children.
Millions of Americans across all backgrounds have watched PBS and listened to NPR. Unlike commercial broadcasting, this educational, entertaining, and uplifting content comes free over the air to anyone with a radio or basic television set. Giants like Bob Ross, LeVar Burton, and Julia Child on PBS, Frank DeFore, Robert Siegel, and Terry Gross on NPR have made their mark on America. But despite this success, right from the beginning, public broadcasting comes under fire. Why is it controversial?
Well, it's because they just don't like us.
It's an easy target.
There is a belief that there's a variety of sources that are out there, so you don't need public television any longer. You don't need NPR any longer.
Public media, it's in the name, right? It's public. It's a very visible place where the government spends money.
For some of our legislatures, they feel that it would be an easy fix. Now, we'll just take this away and look what we're doing.
They have this belief, this ideological belief that government should not be funding broadcast.
Public broadcasting faced ideological and philosophical opposition from the start. In 1973, Richard Nixon responded unfavorably to public broadcasting coverage of the Watergate scandal, putting the young system's existence in jeopardy.
What about the public broadcasting? Well, that's the main dispute there, is to have an adequate PR activity again, so that we're not committing it. It must not appear. If it's not appear that you're trying to affect the network's news content. That's what you do, but you must not appear to be doing that. It'd be utterly stupid. We don't have it.
Even children's programming icon Fred Rogers fought for public broadcasting in the face of political and ideological opposition.
Senator Pastore, this is a philosophical statement and would take about 10 minutes to read, so I'll not do that. My first children...
Will it make you happy if you read it?
I'd just like to talk about it, if it's all right.
Sir.
But why is public broadcasting relevant and worth fighting for?
I think public broadcasting has a more important role today than it has probably ever in our past.
What would it be like if we didn't have certain facts that we could believe in so that we can base our decisions on something besides our feelings at any given time?
You have programs like the News Hour. It doesn't really have any particular slant to it because it's not owned by a larger corporation. It's just trying to deliver the facts, ma'am.
The fact that public media
does not have paid commercials. We don't have an agenda other than to provide civil discourse for people. You won't find that on network news, quite frankly, or cable news.
In our particular instance, we are the only statewide network. For a lot of people, we're the only source of information that they have.
We're willing to do the hard work, the heavy lifting, the storytelling that people need, even if it's messy, and even if people don't like what they hear. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. You have to be able to tell the stories that people really need.
When two sides go there to talk, there is going to be civil discourse no matter what.
Every time there's question about whether federal funding should remain or not, why it becomes such a national issue is that individuals throughout the country in leadership roles and the middle class recognize the value.
Public broadcasting is ours. It is the only news source that I'm aware of that's publicly funded with the listeners supporting the stations.
It's just a good representation of the information that we need. I just like the way their reporting is so open and honest and informative.
In the face of over 50 years of relevancy, support, and success, the fight for public broadcasting continues in America. The reasons behind this argument vary.
Guess what? Public TV and radio are on the chopping block.
They defunded the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
It is just a matter of time before NPR becomes defunded.
Well, NPR is a Ministry of Information for the polite academic left in America, and they are entitled to have any propaganda arm they want, but they shouldn't ask for a subsidy.
Eliminating taxpayer funding for NPR is precisely the kind of common sense cut that we have to begin making.
There's no need for government to be subsidizing media in this day when there are hundreds and hundreds of media choices.
There is this inherent arrogance that they are the ones who see the true world the way it is.
These ideological differences divide Americans on public broadcasting. Where do they stem from?
Generally, government does not have one penny to spend that it didn't first take from the hard work of individuals. And so when you think about that and you think about the gravity of taking from someone the fruits of their labor, then that brings a heavy burden and an accountability to how government dollars are spent. This is not critical to the continuing life of someone. It's not a basic core service like education or healthcare.
They are not creating the kind of content for children's programming that public television does, because public television blends the cartoons and the animation and the fun with learning, and that's what makes it different and important.
For many cases, particularly here in Tennessee, where 65% of all kids do not attend any type of preschool, we are it. We are their ready to learn. We are their preschool or school readiness program.
When you talk to a lot of people in Oklahoma, they feel like when they view public television's review of many issues, that it tends to be one-sided. And the reason it tends to be one-sided, it has to do with the ideological bent of most of the people who are working in public television.
I think for a lot of people, they don't really understand public media. We've long been a political football where people can take shots at public media and that we're liberal. But the reality is public service media takes the job very seriously. We try to be fair. We try to be very professional and ethical in what we do.
The concept, as it was originally laid out, was to fill a void that existed that nobody in commercial broadcasting was taking care of. You will not get the kind of programming anywhere else, on cable, on satellite, on any medium, on any platform, even the internet, that public broadcasting provides. It's not there.
When the head of CPB testified in front of Congress about what the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and Public Media does for our country, you could see the light bulbs going off. You could see that they were becoming enlightened to all of the different things that we do.
We forget that America is a very, very big place. And there are people who don't have everything 24 hours a day. And they are our kids too.
it looks like a place where, oh, we can cut here and maybe we'll save a lot of money. The reality that I think people don't realize is that it is such a small percentage of the budget. It's just a very public one.
Every time this has happened, the American people rise up and they call and they write and they email.
There's a value there that they know good and well that the people want to keep, and they use it as a bargaining tool more than anything. In the end, they figure out a way to provide funding for public TV because it's very important, and they all have constituents they'd have to face back home if they did anything to it.
To governments to choose, and we'll have some tough choices, I have no doubt, to make, but I think you make your case very well. And I think you do your job very well.
Without federal funding, there are a lot of stations around the country in smaller cities that would probably close their doors overnight. And losing that federal funding, closing those stations, it would initially devastate and ultimately destroy the service that public media offers to this country.
What are the consequences of the free market? What does public media look like in a state that has removed or drastically scaled back funding?
OETA used to produce more local programming than any other public television affiliate in the United States of America. Today, that's almost gone.
We've lost probably half of our staff in the last 10 years here at OETA. And with them, they took programming that we can't do anymore because we don't have enough people to do it.
The News and Public Affairs Department's down to one weekly program. The documentary unit's down to 3 or 4 documentaries a year and one monthly partial arts program. That's all we have left.
The baseline for us is our news. We're not going to give that up because we cover the legislature and state government, unlike a commercial station is willing to do.
We'll watch commercial television occasionally and we'll see a lot of stories that are designed to bring eyeballs to the screen. And I understand that. They have a job to fulfill, they have ratings that they need to bring up in order to bring in more advertisers in order to fund that. And obviously journalism can't function if it doesn't have money, if it doesn't have revenue. But the stories that we do in depth. We do coverage that you're just not going to find anywhere else. And that, I think, is the difference.
As a reporter in public radio and television, I have been able to actually do real broadcast journalism. Public broadcast does far more in-depth reporting than any other branch of the news media in America today.
Part of the reason that I came here when I was asked if I was interested in coming to talk to the search committee here was because of OETA's reputation for really good programming, for good local programming, documentaries and news. The challenge is going to be all state budgets around the country since 2008 are stressed. They just haven't been able to catch up after the recession. With the oil and gas dependence here in Oklahoma, that's going to be a problem. So we've got to find different ways of raising revenue.
The effect on us has been attrition. It takes people to do programs, and if you don't have enough people, you have to do fewer programs.
Every single year we won awards for our coverage of elections because nobody covered elections like we do. That is virtually gone now. Our agency has been cut more than any other state agency in state government. Over 65% of the funding we got is gone. That has decimated our operations.
Realistically, my opinion about the future of OETA and about the future of public broadcasting is rather bleak. I'm not sure how much longer that we will be able to function. I know that the people within this newsroom are all professionals. We all try to do the very best that we can do with the limited resources that we have, understanding that there are things that we simply can't do any longer, and eventually we're going to reach a breaking point. At times it's sort of like that rope fraying, and you see that in a thriller movie where that rope is continuing to fray, and at some point, it's going to break. Unless you do something to shore it up, we're going to crash and burn.
Guided by free market principles, the Oklahoma legislature has cut OETA's budget by 66%. That governing philosophy has seen other vital services receive flat or reduced funding. On April 2nd, 2018, public educators across Oklahoma walked out of their classrooms to protest a lack of state funding for education.
A basic human right inside a classroom would be to have a place to sit, and we don't even have that. We have desks that are breaking on a daily basis. Desks. We don't have places to sit. On Friday, I had a student in a desk that fully collapsed. with them in it. That isn't right.
I mean, I know no one wants their taxes to increase, but it's priorities. We have to fund the future.
Public broadcasting could be very important for our kids. Being from a low-income district, cable, internet, that may not be as available to students as some other places, but public channels are available to almost every household in the country. So if we can have an opportunity to use that as a method to help educate them on math, then that would provide us a great opportunity to help have a supplement to our kids' education.
These kids were raised on Sesame Street. We have to fully fund this state, and it is very important.
After 2 weeks, the educators returned to their classrooms, having won few concessions from state lawmakers. What does this threat to funding look like nationwide?
What things would I cut from spending? Well, first of all, I will eliminate all programs by this test if they don't pass it. Is the program so critical it's worth borrowing money from China to pay for it? And if not, I'll get rid of it. I'm sorry, Jim, I'm going to stop the subsidy to PBS. I'm going to stop other things. I like PBS. I love Big Bird. I actually like you too. But I'm not going to keep on spending money on things to borrow money from China to pay for it. So that's number one.
Their side of the issue is all about money. They don't want to spend the money. They would much rather give tax breaks to big corporations, to rich people, and stifle the arts, culture.
Even when you talk to someone who is opposed to public funding for broadcasting, they can identify certain programs that they like.
I love Big Bird.
Now, they may not like NOVA, a particular political program. They may not like a particular news story. But many of them will say, but I sure like that Downton Abbey. So there is a disconnect. And I think we've got to do a better job communicating to people that if you say that you're wanting to defund us, you don't get to do this a la carte. You don't get to defund just that part you don't like, because that will eliminate the rest of it that you do.
So how much does public broadcasting cost? It's sometimes hard to picture large numbers, but let's look at it another way. The entire CPB budget in 2017 was $445 million, represented here as a single flat brick, making this brick about $10.8 billion. This wall of bricks represents the entire U.S. budget of $4.14 trillion. The federal investment into public broadcasting is small.
The federal budget for CPB, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which is the funding arm for the stations, is $445 million. We spend, as a country, $500 million a year on military marching bands. So, I mean, and I like a good John Philip Sousa march as well as the next person. I mean, I do love a good parade. That's probably a bargain too, but I think the American people get a little more out of public media.
It's easy to take people's misinformation and lack of education about what we are and turn it on its head and use it to look like you are finding a great, huge, amazing way to slash the budget. And in reality, they're just lying to the American people.
I actually like you too.
He said he'd eliminate funding for public television. That was his answer. I mean, thank goodness somebody is finally getting tough on Big Bird. It's about time. We didn't know that Big Bird was driving the federal deficit.
We've heard the arguments for and against public broadcasting. In 1969, Richard Nixon proposed $20 million of funding cuts to PBS, threatening the network's existence. Children's programming icon Fred Rogers gave testimony to Congress that cut right through the noise and ideology. The video for this testimony is wildly popular online. How did his neighborly approach win out?
All right, Rogers, you got the floor.
There's so much impact with that John Pastore, Fred Rogers video, that testimony before Congress, because he was so genuine, he was so authentic.
We deal with such things as the inner drama of childhood. We don't have to bop somebody over the head to make drama on the screen. We deal with such things as getting a haircut, or the feelings about brothers and sisters.
He's a figure that so many people in America grew up with, trusting and understanding in like a deep sort of spiritual, moral sense that this person is right, that it really makes you compelled to listen to what he has to say and not see him as some kind of mouthpiece for any kind of political agenda.
Please won't you be my neighbor? Hi, neighbor. Glad we can be television neighbors today.
He doesn't speak of civility, but he speaks of civility. He speaks of being that friend. And this nostalgic piece of me remembers that as a kid, that he was my friend.
I think that it's much more dramatic that two men could be working out their feelings of anger. Much more dramatic than showing something of gunfire. I'm constantly concerned about what our children are seeing. And for 15 years, I have tried in this country and Canada to present what I feel is a meaningful expression of care.
Do you narrate it?
I'm the host, yes. And I do all the puppets, and I write all the music, and I write all the scripts.
Well, I'm supposed to be a pretty tough guy, and this is the first time I've had goosebumps for the last 2 days.
Well, I'm grateful, not only for your goosebumps, but for your interest in our kind of communication.
That to hear this calm presence of, I understand, you know, he's saying, I feel ya, and kind of bringing the tone back down.
Could we get a copy of this so that we can see it? Maybe not today, but I'd like to see the program.
I'd like very much for you
I'd like to see the program itself, or any one of them, you see.
He says there's nothing else out there like what we do. And it's interesting that so many years later, there's still nothing else out there that does what we do, that talks about the feelings, that makes kids feel that they are in a safe space, not just their parents.
Could I tell you the words of one of the songs which I feel is very important?
Yes.
This has to do with that good feeling of control, which I feel that children need to know is there. And it starts out, what do you do with the mad that you feel?
When you feel so mad, you feel like biting. When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong, and nothing you do seems very right. What do? Do you punch a bag? Do you pound some clay or some dough? Do you round up friends for a game of tag and see how fast you go? It's great to be able to stop and be able to do something else instead and think, this song, I can stop when I want to, can stop when I wish,
can stop, anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this.
And know that the feeling is really mine. Know that there's something deep inside that helps us become what we can. For a girl can be someday a woman,
and a boy can be someday a man.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Looks like you just earned the $20 million.
Rogers' testimony swayed the committee, and the federal appropriation for public broadcasting was, adjusted for inflation, increased by $73 million. Public broadcasting won. Today, PBS is much more than Mr. Rogers. Diverse content for adults and children connects people across all backgrounds. Content airing for people who don't have or can't afford cable or satellite television.
On Civilizations.
Programming that commercial stations won't provide because they can't turn a profit off it. NPR and PBS fills the void that the free market creates.
Hi, I'm Rick Steves, back with more of the best of Europe.
Who is the next Fred Rogers to speak so forcibly for public broadcasting? How will the system respond to shifting demographics and appeal to Americans on both ends of the political spectrum? What service will public broadcasting be to Americans in the future?
It's just very difficult to come up with a case from someone that is thinking at things from a free market-oriented perspective, wherein state taxpayer dollars need to be used to fund public television.
Every American taxpayer pays for all of NPR and all of PBS $1.35 per year. If one child shows up to kindergarten or first grade and they already know their letters and their numbers and their colors, I'll pay $1.35 for that. I'll pay a lot more than that.
You know, an interesting question is whether commercial broadcasting, commercial stations, commercial networks can provide the same kind of content that public stations do. Can they? Sure. Will they? Well, take a look. Are they?
I believe that we can use television and film to be an influence for good, that we can help to shape the thoughts of children and adults in a positive way. As it has turned out, I'm very proud of some of the work we've done, and I think we can do many more good things. Jim Henson.
Hello, neighbor. Do you see this? It's called a wallet. And inside of a wallet, well, that's where money goes. Now, do you know what money is? I'm guessing no, because you're watching public television. Therefore, you don't have cable. Therefore, you're probably poor.
Hello, I'm Margaret Jo McCullen.
And I'm Terry Rialto.
And you're listening to The Delicious Dish on National Public Radio. Now, Terry, it's Christmas season again, our favorite time of year.
That's right, Margaret Jo. Holiday time is when the most wonderful culinary wishes can come true. Now, what's on your list this holiday season, Margaret Jo?
Well, Terry, I really got greedy this year. I'm asking Kris Kringle for a wooden bowl, some oversized index cards, and a funnel.
Before he gets rid of Sesame Street, I think we should make the president watch it a couple of times. That show teaches so many things he needs to know. Which thing is bigger than the other, how to spell, the importance of telling the truth and sharing, listening to others, maybe throw in some Schoolhouse Rock. He can find out how government works. Let's get on that.
It's a beautiful day to kick your ass.